Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy C Mates. We're back for a special episode of More Than Just a Game. And tonight's not just anyone that we have here, but it's someone that's been played a big part of my life. Throughout our school years, but even now with what we do with our business and our organization. He's the type of guy. He's the type of guy where if you were going to go into war today, he's the type of guy that he'll be right beside you, leading and running ahead. To whatever it is that we're trying to conquer. And so that's the type of man that he is. He's a family man. He's an awesome dad. He's an awesome coach, and he is a brother to me as well. So tonight we have our very own co-founder of Armour Academy, Armour Academy director, head of Armour Academy League program, mentor, and scucks, big guns, everything over and above. It's this man here, Mr. Marcell, aka DJ Metro. Welcome to More Than Just a Game, brother. How are you, bro?
Yeah, good, brother. I'm good. And don't forget my wife.
Oh, and and Emma. She's the power behind Marcell. Bro, it just feels like we're just having a conversation, having coffee, bro.
Yeah, like you did.
Man, well, it's good to have you on board tonight. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's only timely and important that we get you on because people to hear your story and to hear your why and why you do what you do. Because I know your backstory, I know what you've done in the past in regards to your own journey, but just what you're doing now is making a huge impact in the community. And bro, welcome home. This is home, our podcast, so it's good to have you on board. Toko, for those of you that don't know, me and Marcell go way back. We go way back to way back. Like old school, back in old school, back at St. Paul's College. I think it was 97. Was it 97, bro?
Yeah, 97.
97, when I first came across this guy. He was a scucks back at school. He had this hair like Peter Andre. And we were playing rugby league. And there it was, trying to bump off to everybody. All of a sudden, this guy just flew in there. I thought it was like a torpedo, and hit me. And I fell on my back. And how when people are like their legs and hands are in the air, and it's like very shaky. That was my legs and hands, and it was the man himself, Marcell. So that was the first time I got introduced to Marcell. And then we got to play rugby together and do that journey through school. Man, do you want to just share a little bit about that, like our journey at school, bro, like St. Paul's College?
Nice. Went to St. Paul's College. Caught up with yourself back in '97. Through to 2000. It was some good times. Really enjoyed my time at St. Paul's. I think it was then that I first got introduced to hanging out with Tongans, and seeing grown men come from Tonga and then go to school. 21. So it was awesome, man. It was awesome.
Definitely some good times, and we'll touch a little bit more on that when we go to our get to know you segment. But just to warm us up, I got some warm-up questions, man. And I heard and then I witnessed that you're a bit of a singer, bro. There is a favorite song that you sing, bro. I remember, and it's your go-to. Man, can you just share with our audience what's that go-to song, and maybe give us a little sample?
Oh, not tonight, but there's a lot of songs, but all my mates as well, they know which one it is, especially my close mates. It's
I might have to call you Santana.
Maria.
Yes, that's the song, Maria. Short sell. All right. Next question, bro. If you were a superhero, let's say if you recruited by the Avengers, man, and some awesome characters there, Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, and all of them. If you got the opportunity to be recruited as one of those characters, which one would you be? and why? And then also, what extra power would you add to your character?
I'll probably be Iron Man.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice,
Iron Man,
nice.
because he's like Batman in DC. With the what are they called again? Oh, anyway, yeah. So Iron Man, and probably the extra power would be um the extra power would be to be able to combine all of the other Avengers powers.
Well, that's a good one. That's really smart, man. That's really smart. That's good. And you know what? Like, I mean, it's only normal that he picks that with that name Iron Man because I remember just touching his bicep and my fingers broke. So some iron biceps there, Marcel. All right, last question, Bo. I heard you're a bit of a chef, man. And when you first met your wife Emma, what was the meal that you made for her?
Oh, probably stir fry.
Stir fry.
Chicken
Stir
stir
fry.
fry.
Was
Yes.
there any like romantic music in the background?
Oh, yeah. No, not really.
The man. I'll still answering those questions. It's always good to kind of just throw out those questions and just get the vibes going for tonight's segment. As I mentioned before to the audience, as I said, Marcel, for those who don't know, he's a co-founder of Armour Academy, director, also runs our league program and many more things. He looks after our business side, entrepreneurial side of things of our academy. So just in case you missed that part. Now we're going to go to a segment called Get to Know You. And I mentioned before that not many people, they know you as Marcel Ainama, but who is Marcel? Like, where did you grow up? And we talked about your schooling years. I'm sure there's some special moments in your schooling years that you probably want to touch on. Your playing career, because you're also a former athlete as well. I know they played rugby at high levels as well as a bit of bodybuilding as well. And then in your professional career, like after sports, like what did you get up to? And then what are your passions and hobbies? If you can just touch a little bit on that, Marcel.
Oh, so I was born in New Zealand, born in Porirua,
Yeah.
Porirua Hospital. Then as a young fella, I grew up with my aunties in Porirua, and then as a young boy, I went over to the islands.
Wow.
My grandmother, she took me to the islands. So I spent. Oh, that's the Cook Islands.
Yeah.
I'm half Samoan, half Cook Island. My mom's Cook Island, and my dad's Samoan.
Wow.
And so, but I didn't have my parents growing up. I think a lot of Pacific Islanders can relate to growing up with their grandparents, and I was one of those guys. So I grew up with my grandparents in the islands up until I was 13. So I went to primary school in the islands, and then I also went to intermediate as well. And then as a 13-year-old, I left the islands because my grandmother, who was my mum,
Yeah.
so she was someone I could, I just called, I never saw her as my grandmother. I saw her as my mum.
Wow.
And she passed away in 1995.
Wow.
And I moved to, and it's interesting because up until that point, when you're in your teenage years, you kind of make some poor decisions. And I was running amok in my teens. When my grandmother passed away, at the time to my family, I was renowned to be a quiet person. So I would always just sit there and say nothing and just observe. When my grandmother passed away, all my parents, all my family members said to me, okay, so, you have the choice of either going to Australia or going to going to New Zealand, and in that moment I had to speak up, and I knew I had to speak up, so I stepped up and I said, look, I want to go to Australia. I've never been there before, and I want to live with my Uncle Robert. So yeah, so I moved to Australia. Went to high school, came to Melbourne actually.
Wow.
And, I went to school. I went to Westall
Yeah.
Secondary College. I spent like a year and a half, like just close to 2 years. And but you know, same thing. Came here as a Polynesian kid. You know, I was a bit of a freshie back then. You know, had to kind of like learn English. Like so yeah. So I went there, and then I ended up having a tough time here in Melbourne with my family. Just things just weren't going my way. I was wagging school. You can think about all the bad things. I did it all.
Yeah.
Through the front gate, out the back gate. Go to school through the front gate, go out the back gate. But built a lot of really good relationships. So when I came to Melbourne, there wasn't many Islanders.
Mm.
And it's still the same today. What I saw back then, I see very similar things happening, and but I see it through a different, I see it through a different lenses now. Back to when I was younger, so I see the world different now. But yeah, and then then obviously I came to New Zealand, and then I went on to, to St. Paul's. But when I went to New Zealand, I was lucky because I got to stay with my Samoan family.
Nice.
So with my grandparents. So I spent time with my grandparents in the islands, and then I spent time with my Samoan grandparents in New Zealand. And so through my teenage years, I spent time, I was with my Samoan family up until even to this day. I'm very connected with my Samoan family. And the difference was that my Samoan family, they were third generation? No, we're second generation. And my Samoan family, they really stepped it up in terms of education. So I came into an educated family, and I knew a lot of knowledge around the island way, but I needed to understand what it was like to like really understand how important academics was, because I wasn't a good academic. I want to say I was a bad student. It was just hard for me to understand, because understand the system, because I had grown up in the islands, and there was just a different way of learning over there. It was a lot more hands-on as opposed to, so it was just different. So I found I failed a lot, at school. I didn't really have much success there. But I never gave up. I always kept trying. I did try at one stage to try and fit in, but when I got to around 17, I realized that it's not about trying to fit in with anyone. It's just about being who you want to be. And that's just through my family. My Samoan family is just like that, So yeah, no, it's been a cool journey, like, and obviously, through the playing career, like, obviously we all wanted to be that All Black. And unfortunately for me, I only started playing rugby when I was about 12, because in the islands in Raro, we never had any programs. Like, we never had any club footy, but we played every sport. So the biggest sport we used to play a lot in the islands was volleyball.
Oh.
So I played a lot of volley, and then we just played everything and anything. And it wasn't until I went to intermediate that I started playing rugby. So, but yeah, coming to New Zealand, it was just a big eye opener, and really, and I really wanted that All Black dream, like every other kid. And so, but unfortunately, I was at a rugby league school, so it was a lot tough, harder to kind of get into the system. So yeah, and then through that, up until so that was just interesting, So yeah, so where am I at now?
Yeah, playing rugby at school, and then I remember, because we went to school together, and there was a particular game we played, and we always talk about it all the time. Like, I think we talk about it like a million times. We always reminisce. Can you just talk about that game? Because at school we were known as like the underdogs. In the first 15-1A. Can you just touch on that game, bro?
Yeah, well, which one was it? Yeah, I remember that game. That was Auckland Grammar.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so we were obviously the underdogs. We were not supposed to win that game, and but what people don't understand about St. Paul's is that it's such a small school, and to be in the powerhouse comp, the 1A comp, that's something special.
Yeah.
To play against future All Blacks, the best of the best. Yeah, Auckland Grammar, I remember that, and I was actually on the bench. Well, I was supposed to start on the bench, but our halfback got injured, so he was the guy I looked up to. He was from Tonga, so
Yeah, I remember that.
that's why I learned, that the boys that come from Tonga, they like, even though they can't speak English properly, they're pretty switched on and athletic. So, but yeah, no, that was awesome, man. Like, everything we were taught that year we did in that game. And one thing I learned about that year around rugby was strategy. And I remember our coach would always hammer that into us, say, when we're winning, slow the game down, pretend you're injured, all the tricks. And they all came out on that day. And yeah, man, I'll never forget that game. That was probably the highlight of my schoolboy career. Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking back, just as you're sharing, I remember that day, like we going back home and then going to school the next day, we felt like we won the World Cup. Because you said, man, that team was, man, they had the meanest lineup of guys that went on to become professional and rugby players. But also like St. Paul's, because we both run an academy now. But can you just talk about, because St. Paul's back in 96, 97, 98, we had the very first sports academy that was in a school. Can you chat about that, the Saints Academy?
Yeah, Saints. Yeah, I remember Saints. Yeah, that was awesome. That was such a great experience. And that was run by Dean Rice, and Dean Rice at the time was in the Black Sox, for softball, and he'd been going back and forth from America, and he was also a personal trainer. So I always tell people that story that we were part of one of the first academies in New Zealand, and that all the drills that everyone's seeing on TV and all these cool things in the industry, we were doing it back in the 90s.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Speed ladders, agility poles, and even the speed gates. I remember Dean would put us through the speed gates. And but I'll tell you a story about that. So the academy was awesome. For me, I had to, because we'd start training at 7 in the morning, and this is something I always say to the athletes. It's like, man, I lived in Onehunga. I had to catch 2 buses to get to school on time, and I would make that session. And, I always remember this on the back of the singlet, and it always said no excuses.
Yeah.
And that lives with me to this day. Like, awesome. It was such a great thing, and obviously, we've got our own academy now. It came from that. That's where it came from. So, yeah, man, that was awesome.
Good times there. I remember, those early morning trainings will be running, and then all the other students will come for school, and then we'll go have our breakfast and then go to class. Like, it actually felt like we were at that pro level, eh?
Yeah, it just felt like, I guess for me, it was like, I just felt that, I felt I was going somewhere. I felt, and, we would all be, because it wasn't a big group.
Yeah.
It was, the ones that were selected for that academy. So, those things still live with me to this day, the lessons that I learned. And, I always remember, Dean Rice just saying, man, you just got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. And then I can remember the time when he dropped me off, Dean Rice dropped me off to Mid-City, and all the Kiwis out there in Auckland, where Mid-City is. But he was on his way to do his clients, his training his clients anyway. And I said, I kept asking him heaps of questions. So remember his blue Volvo?
Yeah, but I remember that.
And then I was like, hey, so how much do you get paid? And he said, oh man, I charge $50 an hour. And then back then I was like, man, what a rich guy, like. And then I used to think, man, that's a cool job. And then he had how big was his chest, eh?
Oh, yeah, it reminds me of your chest books.
Oh, this guy.
It was a big chest, man. It was, man. It was like the Hulk.
Yeah, he always man, he was just one of the best, coaches I've had, in my time. Just
yeah.
So yeah, like we're pretty grateful to have been exposed at such a young age to all of those techniques, but it's the basics that gets you through, eh?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Now that's awesome, so. And yeah, man, like I always remember you at school, bro. You're always that guy that you're that friend, and it's in today's society. There's not many of these types of friends. The ones that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And then I remember you always being that guy for me, because there'll be times where at school I'll probably try to take a little shortcut, or I wasn't using my size at that time to, against other teams, and you'll be like, get in there, man, get in there, use your big. I remember you being that guy, and then, I remember that, I still remember that. And it's also because even now in our relationship now, you're still that guy for me, and that's the iron sharpens iron, and and that's what I love about you, so and that as well.
Yeah, no, I think I've had to. I think one of the biggest things for me is like what's important is loyalty.
Yeah,
like
100%.
I feel that I'm a loyal person, and I've had to be loyal from day one. You know what I mean? And I've had to choose my friends wisely, and just learn to always I never would get sucked into the influences.
Yeah.
People would be a bad influence, but it just wouldn't. Like if I felt that that it wasn't for me, it was easy for me to walk away.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like no, I did have that at school. I used to kind of just keep to myself.
Yeah.
Everyone likes heaps of friends, but I was just not really that interested, in just being like everyone else, I guess.
Yeah. That's awesome, so. And for those that are watching, Marcel touched on some important things there. Like he talked about not being that person that's easily influenced, because in life there are two types of people. One, you can be influenced, or you can be the influencer, or be the person that influences positive change. And that's something that you can just take away and keep it in the back of your mind, because that's what that's who Marcel was, and he's still that person even to this day. All right, also just moving along to coming to, so you left New Zealand. So I did a bit of my research as well. You left New Zealand, and then you came back to Australia, to Brisbane, on your own.
So,
can you just touch on that?
So obviously I left school, and then I went to Grammar Carlton, and but I felt that, like, everyone would always say to me, "Oh man, you're a really good league player," But for me, like, because would St. Paul's, we play league on Wednesday, play union on Saturday.
Hard.
It was interesting because on Wednesday it just wasn't a challenge. Like, you play first 15, dominate, but then the reason why I would play first 15 is because I felt the pressure. Like, I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
Like that pressure, like every single game is going to be tough. And so from there, like in 2000 was my last year, and we didn't get the wooden spoon. So I was grateful for that. And I'll share a little story to people who don't know, but that year I actually was the captain for the team.
Yeah.
In 2000 I was named captain, and we went down to the Maris tournament.
Yeah.
And I was on point. Everything was on point. But then we went and stayed with our billets, and the rule was that no one was allowed to go away from the billets. And but I broke that rule. I went to see my family, and then I took my time getting back. And when I got to the game, I got to the game late, and that was when what do you call it? Yeah, then the coach, Mr. Mara, Mr. Rice just looked at me, and I saw that look, man, and I went, man, I let the team down,
Yeah.
and I got the captaincy stripped from me for the whole
Wow.
year.
Wow.
And that to this day, man, that's one of my biggest regrets. I don't have many, but that was a big regret. And I learned in that moment how much I let the team down.
Yeah.
And we went on to I think we came third in that tournament, and then obviously we went and played you guys. But yeah, then I ended up leaving school after 2000 when I played at Grammar Carlton.
Yeah.
Oh no, I went to Marist first. I did a year at Marist, and I was trying to crack it into the top side, but I ended up in Colts.
Yeah.
That was a good experience, and then I went from there to Grammar Carlton, which is Grammar Tech now, I think. And I don't know, I developed this attitude, like, I kind of had an arrogance about me, and I had this time in Grammar Carlton, I actually made the squad for the top side, and my coach back then was I can't remember his name, Scully or something, and he put me on the wing, and I wanted to play halfback, and then I said to him, oh look, like, and I was in the team, so here I was, well, I don't want to even play this position, and so I made a decision to go talk to the reserves coach, and I said, hey, if I come and play for you, will you play me at 9? And he goes, yeah, I'll play you at 9. And then I went and told the coach for topside, I said, hey, look, just letting you know, if you need a 9, I'll be in reserves. Come and get me. That was my exact words. And I never saw topside that year. and then that's when I ended up in Australia. So I was like, my mindset wasn't like, oh, poor me. My mindset was more like, hey, oh, well, whatever. Don't worry about it then, I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, man, how come he's not picking me, or feel sorry for myself. I was like, no, I'll show you, and just keep showing you back to back, And then, I got a call from my cousin, and he said, hey, man, you should come over to Australia. And then that's when I made the move to Australia to play league. Wow. And I went down to South Logan. So they had open trials, and I got an opportunity down there. And then my cousin got me a job as a courier, like sorting out freight in the courier company. And yeah, man, I just went down there. First thing I felt, man, when I walked out of the plane, because it was summer in Queensland, was the heat.
Oh, wow.
But, my biggest asset that I had back then was my conditioning. Yeah. So I was always, fit. I used to run a 16 in a beep test. I was always, it was just like that came natural to me. Yeah. And so, but I knew that I had to train in the heat. So at midday, every day for 2 weeks in Queensland, I'd go out and train in the sun and just acclimatize myself. And then when I did pre-season, I smashed it and was always in that top 2, top 3, if not first. And then people would always go, oh, what, man, Islanders are not like that. They're not that fit. You know what I mean? And but in my mind, I'm just like, man, I'm just like everyone else, bro. Yeah. But I'm beating you. I was like that. Yeah. And I'm banter, you name it. Oh, come on, mate. That's all you got. That was me. So yeah, man. That was me in Queensland.
That's also, man, because that's also just, seeing just the way that your mindset was, because you're right, man. A lot of athletes these days, or young people that want to be their next level athlete, as soon as they get, they get selected straight away, the victim mindset of, oh man, why didn't he pick me? But I liked what you said, like you just looked at it and said, all right, okay, cool then. All right, I'll just find another way. And then I think that's an important message for the young people and for people in general watching tonight, is that sometimes in life, it's not going to always go your way, but then your response should be, okay, what's the next phase or what's the next step? So thanks for touching on that, Sel, because I feel that that's a very powerful message that a lot of young people need to hear. And so you went to, so I remember us having a chat a while back. You went to Brisbane, you played there, you played league up there as well as rugby.
Yeah.
and then you made the switch to become a PT and then bodybuilding. Can you touch on that? Because, man, when I look at one of your pictures, man, I thought it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, man.
No, he's bigger than me. But what do you call it? Yeah, so through the league, so when I had my stint in league, you know, I kind of like, I still had a lot of learnings to do. You know, I was only 20 years old,
Yeah.
and you know, and my coach at the time for the league was Anthony Griffin, and you know, same story, man. I kind of took the same attitude I had from New Zealand, positive and negative, and he put me on the wing for league, but I wanted to play 5'8".
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Oh, look, you know, you made the squad, you know, like, but you're gonna play on the wing for us." Then I was going, "Oh, but I'm a 5'8", and then I did the same thing. I went to the coach and said the reserves, and I said, "Hey, mate, you want a 5'8"? And then same thing. Went to Anthony Griffin and said, "Hey, mate, I'm going down to reserves. Let me know when you need a 5'8". But this was different because I got dropped down to like Division 4. But then again, same thing. I was like, "Oh, well, don't worry about it then." Then I was made the switch back to Union. I was
Wow.
over at Brothers.
Brothers.
And I went to Brothers and I just walked in, man. And then, you know, started climbing my way up to first grade.
Nice.
So that was a good experience, you know, had some opportunities there for the Reds as well. You know, like, you know, kind of chasing that dream. But then I got an injury. I had a really good preseason. You know, had some of the guys talking to me about, you know, if I have a good season, you know, there'll be some opportunities for me, but I did my knee.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I never had an injury like that before. And I was just like, I got depressed. And yeah, man, that was a tough gig. And then that's when I kind of fell out from rugby. Because when I came back, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
You know, your mind is, you know, your body's over here, your mind's 6 feet in front of you. So it's like, it just didn't make sense getting injured, and I had injury after injury. So then I switched to PT, became a personal trainer,
Wow.
which was, you know, pretty interesting.
How was that? How was that? You know, that transition from playing to now focusing on a career. You know, a lot of athletes these days, I think they're starting to introduce it now. You know, thinking about having that backup after sport, but you know, we always hear from the person that made it to the top, but you know, there's a bigger percentage of people that had that dream or close to, but had to transition early due to, you know, injury or something. How did that? How did you feel through that transition period?
Yeah, well, you know, like, you know, one thing, it was my cousin John. You know, he became a personal trainer first, and he goes, "Man, you should get into personal training." You know,
Wow.
and for me, it was just a natural thing. You know, training, it was just normal. When I'd train in the gym, like, I was always just like, "Man, don't talk to me." You know, if I'm training, man, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm just here
Yeah.
to get the job done. And so it was natural motivator, and it was a no-brainer, man. And so I got into it, and yeah, it was awesome. But I spent a lot of time studying, you
Yeah.
know, really getting to. I didn't rush into it. I took my time. When I was studying to be a personal trainer, I was a career driver.
Wow.
You know, probably one of the best jobs that I've ever had, man. And but you know, one thing I've always had through my life is I've always had mentors. And
Yeah.
I met this guy. His name was Anthony Wynn, and he was kind of my first business mentor. So this guy, I met him. I just met him out clubbing with a group of friends, and you know, I was noticed his car. He had a really nice car, and just the way he talked was different. And yeah, man, I just made friends with him because he never had any mates in Brisbane. He was from Melbourne, and then yeah, he was the one who kind of guided me, and he got me to. He said, "Look, man, you got to read this book." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's this one here. Take it." And it was the first book I read, and it was called The Magic of Thinking Big
Yeah.
by
I like that book.
David Schwartz.
Yeah.
And when I read that book, you know, it just, I started to see another, you know, I saw a different point of view of the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I just went to the next book, and then the second book he gave me was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
And then it just taught me a little bit about, you know, understanding money and how it works. And then it just went from there. And then by the time I got some experience in his company, through sales, learning how to sell and talk to people, build relationships. And then I took that into my personal training business. When I got qualified, I bought a franchise,
Yeah.
a company called Fitness First. And because I had all the mentoring and I had pretty much had a coach, man, I built a business in 2 weeks. And that's where it all started, my
Wow.
journey in the health and fitness industry.
Wow.
So yeah, man, it's interesting.
That's awesome because I know that you love all things business, and definitely I learn a lot in our journey in regards to that side of things and what we do right now. But you did that, and then you built a successful business up there, and then you moved down to Melbourne, and you're still doing PTing, you're still running your business in the city. And then yeah, talk to us about that, because that will lead us into the what brought us together again. And so talk us about that, coming from Brisbane to Melbourne again.
Yeah, so what was it? Yeah, when I came to Melbourne, so I built a pretty successful company, but I felt that I was leaning more towards my life was leaning more towards money.
Yeah.
Like, my life was just all about money. And yeah, like, so when we caught up, yeah, that was interesting, because when you spoke to me about the academy, doing Iron Armour, I was 100% already thinking about it.
Yeah, I remember
Because
that.
at the time I was actually vice president of Altona Roosters, the rugby league. So, but I wanted to do something, around sports. And so, when you mentioned the academy, like, oh man, we should start our own academy, man, I was already in, because yeah, and I didn't actually know really why I wanted to be part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Didn't really know. I just knew that it was the right thing to do.
yeah.
Instinct, just told me that was the right thing to do.
And that was the one of the characteristics that you carry, is that we've been together 8 years doing Iron Armour, even longer than that, being at school. But one thing I know about you is when you make a decision and you're all in, you're all in. And I remember when we started the Iron Armour, together, from the get go, it was just all in, bro.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm kind of like, that's the type of person that I am.
Yeah.
It's just that type of person that, like, if I make a commitment to something, I'll just go all out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Doc, just give me 1 second. Sorry.
Well, good. Yeah, that's awesome, Moose, because I remember those early days of Iron Armour, but we were studying in the garage. For those that don't know, when we started Iron Armour, we started in this garage, and we had the latest gym equipment. And we had my backyard, and that was our first HQ. And Sal will come in on a Wednesday after being at his work all day, PT, come in and train the boys, and on a Friday night we'll run mentoring session or Bible study with the boys. Man, bro, can you touch on those early years, man? Because I'm going way back now, man. Like those early years, like we're just figuring out what we're gonna do to what we have now, man.
Yeah, like, so I'd spent a lot of time, like, my career, I spent a lot of time mentoring, training the trainers,
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of that was my business, training the trainers, working with Fortune 500 companies, CEOs, lawyers, all these, all these high performers, you would put it. And then making that transition into Iron Armour, like I didn't really know, where the only way I saw where I would fit was through the training in there.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all started. But I think the more like I told you before, like I really didn't know why I was getting myself into it. And then when we started Hainama, we had all these Islander boys, and I'll just drill them, like, hey, why are you late?
Yeah. Hard.
Not early, you're late. Just everything that I'd learned, and then it just organically grew. Like it
Yeah.
grew into something, and then it just like, I'll never forget the time when I really made that decision to commit
Yeah.
and go all in, and that's when, it was when we, yeah, it was probably when those kids started committing suicide that, really started to, really engage in it more and kind of, no, we got to make some changes. So, and obviously, through these last 4 years, doing it full time, that's the biggest. I think it's the most that I've ever learned in my life.
Yeah.
Like these 4 years is how the world really is, and how to really, really push yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like, yeah, just thinking about it, it's like, wow, it's been an amazing, roller coaster ride for sure.
Has been there. Like I remember those days when we first started running, our session on a Saturday. We used to go on a Friday night, and then mark up the fields, and then time the sessions for the Saturday. Man, there were some good days, and then look at where we are now. Like we've been to Europe twice or three times. We've been to America. We've been to New Zealand on tour. We've done work in the juvenile justice system, prisons and in schools. And now, we're in a season where we're relaunching our next phase. Man, like, can you just share a little bit about that, bro, and to where we are now, and also like what drives you now? Because now you've been in the game of Iron Armour for 8 years, and our conversations of late have been like, man, it feels like we're just getting started. Can you just touch on that, bro?
Yeah, I think the type of person that I am now, like what Iron Armour has, kind of allowed. The vehicle for Iron Armour is not only a vehicle for athletes, but it's been a vehicle for me.
Yeah.
It's been a vehicle for me to be able to really understand and take a hold and learn about what really goes on in community,
Wow.
with youth.
Yeah.
And that's who Iron Armour has been for me. And seeing from what we've, look, I don't have a degree, I don't have I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a, qualified, professor, and all of these things. But one thing I do know is that I've done the work.
Yeah.
And I'm not like devaluing anyone's qualifications in that, but like Iron Armour has just like shown me, has allowed for me to just grow as a person, and to really just see things for what they really are.
Yeah.
And and obviously where we're going now, like where we came from into where we're going now is just going to be amazing, because like, oh man, I'm kind of just like a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. Like, never thought I'd be I thought this podcast would have just been like, yes, it is, like, but just reflecting on everything, man, it's like, that's tough, man. It's not easy,
Yeah.
and like for anyone in this space, I'll give them credit. you know, and it's not something you can do by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Um, you know, with our new facility from our last facility to the new one, it's going to allow for us to kind of just, you know, really, I wouldn't say take things to another level, because I think we're already at that level. You know, like the levels are going to organically grow,
Yeah.
but I think it's just going to allow for us to see things from a different point of view again,
That's right.
and allow us to learn more.
Yeah.
You know, because you're like, you know, it's and what we, you know, speak into the young people, into the athletes, is that, you know, your life is it's a constant learning process,
Yeah.
and you got to just keep, you know, and the only way that you can learn is, one, you have to ask questions, two, you have to do your research, and
Yeah.
three, you have to put in the work.
Mm.
So so yeah, no, it's so what did you want me to mention what we're going to do in the new facility, or?
Yeah, yeah, man. Like just, I mean, for the viewers that are watching, you know, you're probably thinking like, man, what's this next phase going to be like? Without giving away too many of our secrets, because we want to save it for the relaunch. So, can you just touch on, you know, some new exciting things that are happening?
Yeah, well, so my background obviously was in the health and fitness space, and you know, one of the things that I learned when I was in the space was really how to take control of your health.
Yeah,
And you know, I believe that, you know, this next phase for us is more focusing around health and wellness, and then just bringing in, you know, into Iron Armour. We've always had that, but really, like for myself, is going back to that space of personal training, and you know, and looking into the health and fitness and health and wellness space, and how we can utilize the knowledge that I've acquired in that space to kind of let it flow through the community.
yes,
So so yeah, so you know, and it's really taking our program to a real you know, a holistic approach. And look, the word holistic has been around for a long time. I've
yeah,
known a lot about holistic, you know, health and wellness, you know, balance, you know, work-life balance. You know, they were throwing that around, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you know, but I think what the new facility, the new space that we're going to be bringing to the table is to be able to you know, share that knowledge, but to the community, to those that will never get exposed to um, that knowledge. Because, you know, like for myself, I've got a lot of knowledge in that space, and you know, when I go back to, you know, we would charge a lot of money for that knowledge when people would want to train with you, because they weren't training with you. People were really paying for your knowledge.
yeah,
So, you know, this for me, this is going to allow for me to kind of bring all the knowledge to the table, and and just give it out to the community,
yeah,
but you know, in a structured way,
yes,
and above board, you know, ticking a lot of the boxes. You know, and I never did see that in Ainama. I thought that Ainama was just going to be for the elite athletes, but then I realized that, like, um, that we needed to, you know, be innovative and diversify
yeah,
our program. And I think the reason why that we, um, you know, we have a lot of success with our programs is because we, like, without, like, I just saw this the other day, and I think I was talking to you about it, is that, like, I've surrounded myself with some of the best minds in the game. You know, like, you know, I've got some real, like, in the health and wellness space. You know, I'm learning about, you know, artificial intelligence. You know, I'm having meetings with some of the best psychologists in Australia.
mm,
You know, and I'm meeting with some of the S&Cs going around. Um, you know, some of the greatest minds. And look, I don't get to share that with people. You know, people don't see that.
mm,
But if that's going to me, if I'm getting that knowledge, that's coming to Iron Armour. You know,
yeah,
this knowledge is coming through to Iron Armour. And one thing that I am committed to, like, and I will be for the rest of my life, is, to make change in community,
Mm.
not only for young people, but for families as well.
100%.
And that's what I'm committed to. That's what
Yeah.
I'm dedicated, to do for the rest of my life until I die.
Yeah.
Is to to really step out there and make that change,
Yeah.
But knowing that we can't do it by ourselves, we have to, have the right people around us.
Yeah.
And look, Doc, sometimes, you're not gonna like the people that you're working with, but you
Yeah.
gotta work with them.
Yeah.
Put the personal aside, focus on the end result, focus
Yeah.
on the goal, collaborate because we need to collaborate and move it forward. Hey, that's something I'm still learning, man. Like you know me, man. I think I don't know, but I know people always say to me that that I can be a straight shooter, but I just think that it's not me being a straight shooter. It's just I'm just being honest with you, and I'm okay. And yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, man,
I
this is
think
cool.
that like when people say that, they don't really know your heart. I mean, we've been together for a while now, and I know when you're being straight up. I know the heart behind it. And I think that that's what, a lot of people that are watching now, like, that you got to know is that when it sells like that, man, it is hard to see everybody win life. Like you said, things changed for us at Ainama when we started thinking it was just about athletes only, but then something changed, and then we realized that even families are athletes, they're life athletes and gamers, and then life is a game. And that's where things changed for us, because then we realized that the athletes have a support network, and and we needed to engage them, and so I love that you mentioned that, bro, because I don't think many people know that. They just see us as just I know it's just a sports academy, but they don't know that our real message at Ainama is the sports academy that will help people to, get them on the path to win life, which is the biggest game that we can't afford to lose. That's always been our message, and it will never change. So it's awesome that you touched on that, bro. And that as well. Did you want to say anything else on that, bro, before we head on to our next, our final question?
No, we'll leave it at that.
So, man, well, this is our final question, because for those who don't know, Sal's a really successful entrepreneur. When you get to hang around him, you get to pick up a lot of things. You get to pick up on his mindset, that he's a person that when he sees something, he's not that person that will just talk about it. He's the person that will be about it. And you're listening to someone that's been with him for 8 years, and that's what catches on to me, and that's my fire for things. So he's an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur. He's very driven, and I know that there are many of you out there, especially throughout this COVID time, probably thinking, man, what am I going to do? Like, what can I do with my life? What's my purpose? And then, so I just want to ask Sel, can you just, if you were talking to the audience right now, athletes, families, parents, and they're in that position, and they're thinking, like, what am I going to do in my life? Like, what would be your message to them to encourage them to, hey, you know what? We didn't see COVID coming. We didn't see any of this coming. But hey, you control what you can. You can still move forward. What would your message be to them, Sel?
I think that my message would be that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
That's cool.
And to know that, like, that there's people out there that are fighting the good fight for you.
Amen.
And know that, like, if I reflect to, I was just taking a moment there to think about it, like, that there are people that are willing to give up, to give their life, to make that change for you.
Yeah.
And if we're willing, and yeah, man, because look, life is not gonna, like, life is it's like anything, you're gonna have the good times and you're gonna have the bad times.
Yeah.
Enjoy the good times and get through the bad times.
Nice.
Because you're not gonna be in the bad times forever. It's just a process that you're going through. But the key is to, always have hope. And if you're religious, just, like, really pray hard. The power of prayer is such an amazing thing, even for myself. you know, or the power of affirmation. You know, it's all about changing the story that you're constantly telling yourself. So, and this is a tool I'll leave with you, is that if you're telling a really stink story to yourself, okay, you're gonna have stink outcomes. So the
True.
key is to change the story, like change the story that you can. You know, if it's not greatness that you see right now, let's just start with you can. I
That's
will.
cool.
You know, I am, and then you start building towards it. It's a process, and you know, with what's going on in the world today, you know, I always want to share this because, um, you know, I can remember, like, because I know our audience, you know, we have a lot of Pacifica, you know, people in the community, and that'll probably watch this, you know, this video. But you know, I want to let you know that, man, if I was a young boy that grew up in the islands, and I'll tell you now, like when I left the islands and I went out into the world, you know, I was always proud to be an islander,
Yeah.
and I always saw that as my biggest asset was being an islander,
Mm.
and I never took a backward step on that, and that helped, like to, and that helped get me through because, you know, being Pacifica, man, you know, we're like, and for myself, like having the being blessed to grow up in the islands is that we do see the ocean that we talk about. You know, we talk about that, okay, yeah, we have small islands. The islands are small, but the islands are connected to the sea,
Mm.
and the sea is endless.
True that.
And the knowledge that I acquired as a young boy through all my mentors, you know, especially my grandmother's partner who taught me, you know, the ways, you know, of the land and you know everything, you know, it carried through, you know, through my life. And so if you're out there, you know, and you're looking for, you know, mentors, you know, people that and you can't, you know, like, and you need help or you need to get through things, man, just connect with us.
Mm.
You know, just connect with us. You know, iron sharpens iron. You know, that's what we stand for. So yeah, that's what I have, man. It's just like, you know, just know who you are, like know where you come from, know your, and if you don't, like just go and do the work and learn about it, learn about yourself,
Mm.
because the only one that can beat you is you. That's the game.
Amen.
That's the game, mate. And then, you know, like we always say at Iron Armour, it's, you know, from the start, it's more than just a game,
Yeah. Hi.
more than it's just a game. And, you know, the game you can't afford to lose is the game of life.
Mm.
Iron sharpens iron is all part of, you know, um, is all about us, you know, collaborating, you know, learning off each other, good or bad, you know. So yeah, that's my encouragement for everyone out there. And thanks, you know, Chris, you know, for this opportunity. I didn't really feel like, you know, sharing my story. You know me, man. I just like to just kick back and just roll, just move forward.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did because yeah, I hope someone will get something out of this, even if it's just one person. I'm all good with that.
Man, that's awesome song, man. For those of you that just finished watching this, man, I want you to give myself a clip, even for your screen there, because you know, yeah, there's a lot more that Sal didn't elaborate on, because when you know his whole story, man, it's just powerful, because you'll get to understand where he is right now. And when he says no excuses, man, you know, he's right, you know, because, you know, in life, you know, a lot of young people growing up here in Australia speak English, do all of that stuff, you know, have homes and that, and you know, really, there's no excuse for why, you know, you shouldn't succeed. As Sal said there, the only one that can beat you is you, and that. So, Sal, you know, thank you for sharing those nuggets with us, man. You know, proud of you, man, and you know,
Can I just say one thing, Chris? Can
yeah,
I
yeah,
just say one thing, like to the young people, you know,
yeah,
is
man,
like is is that, you know, success is not what you think it is.
yeah,
You know, success is like success can be something like just getting up in the morning, you know, being able to take steps, you know, like that's success. You know, don't be tricked into thinking that success is about, you know, money, fast cars, you know, because that's not success, and that's talking from personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, success is all about, you know, like I believe that success is about being a good person.
Awesome.
And if there's anything I want for my own children, because I've got kids too, is I just want them to be good people. I don't care if they play for the All Blacks or or they make millions of dollars, or they're top lawyers or teachers. I want them to be a good person. And so just remember that success is in the little things,
Yeah.
you know. And that's going to be my message for this year, that I'll be speaking into young people, is about success, because I think there's a misconception out there about it, and that, you know, being part of the, you know, being cool now in today's world, well, nothing's really changed. Is you know, might look like being a gangster, but you know, that's another podcast, right? Because I will tell that story. And we'll see who was the gangster.
No, that's awesome, Sel. You know, like I said before, you know, really honored to be journeying with you, man. You know, 8 years and even more, you know, journeying together. And like we always say, it just feels like we're getting started. You know, I just love that, you know, we get to do what we're passionate about. And, you know, just want to, on behalf of everybody watching, right now, okay, just want to honor you, brother, because, you know, you're a man of the community. You know, no one knows, you know, it's not easy being a man of the community and what you do, seen and unseen. But I want to just take the opportunity to honor you, bro. Honor you for your work that you do tirelessly in the community. You never complain. I'm around you all the time. You never complain. You just get the job done. And I think that there needs to be a lot more people like that, you know, just get the job done. And the changes will come. And so thank you also for, you know, sharing your story today and blessing us with those nuggets and that. And, you know, well, like we always say, we're not as good as our last game. We're back to the gym tomorrow. Back to the gym tomorrow. But also, man, have a good one. Please send our love to Emma and the kids. And look forward to this next this decade that we're in now, and what God's going to do through our academy and through us and the people that we have around us. And that's one of the, just to finish up, that's one of the strengths of Ainama. Number one is our faith. But also, Ainama is not just one person; it's a team, and there's 4 of us in our team. There's myself, Marcel, his wife Emma, and also my wife Rochelle, and that's the nucleus, that's the strength, and then we all bring something to the table. And Ainama is what it is because of the team, and then we've got our coaches and our volunteers, and you're going to hear next week from Emma and Michelle. They're the real bosses, Eagles.
Yep.
They're the real bosses, and you're going to hear from them next week. But tonight, again, so on behalf of the community, to speak on behalf, and also the athletes, thank you for all your hard work, bro. And I'm looking forward to our new season ahead. And so that's our special episode from tonight. You've heard there from co-founder of Ainama Academy, director, head of rugby league program, MARCELL, the man himself. You know, I know that you'll be blessed at home for what he shared with you. And so, you know, MARCELL, thank you again, brother. Have a good night. And to all those that are watching tonight, be safe and care for this holiday period. Stay warm. And remember, keep an eye on our Facebook page, our website for our relaunch date, and also our upcoming programs. It's going to be nothing like you've never seen before. So next level. All right. Let's go, everybody. Thank you, Sal. Have a good night, brother. Catch up at the gym tomorrow for some painting.
Yo, tô fácil.
Take care, bro. We have another episode of Ainama done and dusted. Not just any episode, but the episode, as we got to hear from one of Ainama's directors and co-founder, MARCELL PUTAURA, share her story on his journey growing up to now the success that he's been able to have through his own life, but even through what he is doing through Ainama and what he does at Ainama. Massive shout out to Emma and the kids for all the work that you all do behind the scenes, seen and unseen. You know, we are so blessed to be on this journey with you all, and praying abundant of blessings upon you. I know that you at home would have had pages and pages of notes from tonight's podcast, and I really want to encourage you, like I always do, to apply what you learn. Apply what you learn. There's only through application that you have true transformation. All right. So again, Marcel PUTAURA, my brother, I love you also. So grateful to be on this journey with you, and excited for what's ahead for us. All right. Tune in next week for another episode of More Just a Game, special episode, special edition, where you're going to hear from the real bosses, the ladies of Ainama, Rochelle and Emma. And so tune in for that. One's going to be awesome. It's going to be funny. And yeah, let's go. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy your holidays and be safe.